return of the... Oh, wait. No, wait. You're kidding. No, it is. It's Lucie Pudilova making her return to the UFC. She went on a terrible losing streak, but there was some fight of the nights in there, and she ends up over with Octagon, a tidy little record over there. She was able to go 5-1 at 135 pounds, and the only loss to UFC veteran Talita Bernardo there. Now, all of those fights, all decisions. And for Lucie Pudilova, she has switched things up. She's gone over to train with Straight Blast Gym Ireland. You don't hear that gym very often. The main gym, she's been training with Richie Smullen. She's been training with Artem Lobov. She's been training with Conor McGregor. So Lucie Pudilova coming in here looking to set the world on fire, taking on Jackson Wink's Mulan Wu Yanan, a fighter who's 1-4 in her last 5 fights, fought in a fight of the night her last time out against Maeda Buena Silva, almost got finished in the first round, made it competitive round 2, made it competitive round 3, at least the commentary made it seem that way. And for Wu Yanan, she's always bouncing the balls of her feet, always walking forward, either giving damage or absorbing damage. And before that fight against Maeda Buena Silva, the big concern was earlier on in the year, she tore her MCL. She still wears a knee brace in training, but she did look very mobile in that fight. Looked like the same person round 1 to round 3. Slowed down a little bit, but that's to be expected. So for Wu Yanan, very much of the ilk that I have a Sonda background. We're talking kickboxing all day. Struggles with the takedowns at times. And if you do look at it for the level of competition for Wu Yanan, somebody who came into the UFC very young, doesn't fight very often. If you look at it, fights in 2017, 18, 19, 21, all just one fight per year. Looking to get back to the regularity that saw her become the WLF Wars champion back when she was much younger. But in 2022, this is her second bout of action. So you do like to see that. But level competition, lose to Gina Mazzani. Beats Lauren Mueller, where she was a big underdog by submission, and at that time, Mueller was undefeated. Lose to Mizuki by split decision, lose to Jocelyn Edwards, and then loses to Maeda Buena Silva. The level of competition's kind of been all over the place.
It has been.
The other thing for Lucie Pudilova, switches camps, but I've seen the same fighter since she was in the UFC to the fighter that there is now. Fight of the night against Irene Aldana. The one thing that I absolutely hate, Matt, that nobody's going to talk about, Lucie Pudilova has exhibition experience since she left the UFC. She fought in an octagon tournament. She lost to 18-year-old Teresa Bleda, who was an amateur, just an amateur at that time. Lost that one by split decision. I thought Pudilova won the fight 2-1. They were 3-minute fights, three-minute rounds. Not good when you're losing to an 18-year-old amateur fight. Now, the fighter that she fought is undefeated now as a pro. She's going to be taking part on Dana White's Contender Series later on this year. She's 5-0 as a pro. Week 7, you can look for that out of Teresa Bleda, whose nickname is Ronda Rousey. She goes for a lot of takedowns. I fucking hate that she lost to an 18-year-old amateur fighter when she
got Bo Cruz. Like, she was Tobias Harris who showed up at the court like, yeah, I got this. I was in the UFC. And the next thing you know, you're getting blocked and it's going on social media.
Now, I thought she won the fight, but still, that's bad.
Yeah, not good at all. For Pudilova, she does crash forward recklessly a lot. Like a lot. And you're right, the gym change hasn't really changed her as a fundamental fighter. She does still crash forward a lot, and it really does come down to how much her opponent respects her power, because it's a lot of volume, but there's not a lot of bad intention sent behind it. She's not somebody who can really hurt you with one shot, even 2 shots, or 3 shots. Like, it's going to take a lot for her to TKO an opponent. So Wu Yanan is happy to just sit in the pocket, kind of accept that early storm, accept some of that volume, and land her own more damaging shots in the in-between. I think she could win this fight. But I could see this fight just being one of those lower level, like Caitlin Chukagi and Jodie Escobar type fights where, okay, Pudilova's landing more arm shots, if you will, but they're not necessarily shots that you would consider all that significant. They might resound in the minds of the judges, but I don't really think they're going to be the most impactful of shots, but they will land. And I think at a certain point, her overwhelming volume is something that does set these two fighters apart.
That's the trouble. I mean, if you look at it for Pudilova when she's supposed to take on her 18-year-old amateur exhibition fight, she's curling her dog, so that was kind of different. Interesting stuff. Lost that fight, but for Pudilova, again, 5-1 is the record outside of the UFC. With the UFC, it was 2-5, so that wasn't really the greatest. But when you do look at it for Pudilova, does like to fight behind the jab and then throw her right hand. She'll throw 1, 2, 3 jabs just to land that right hand.
She can get hit a lot.
Moves a lot side to side. The fight against Irene Aldana, that is a split decision loss on her record. The fight that I don't like is the one against Justine Kish, where she threw little to no volume in that one. Kish was able to just dart in and out on the outside. Smaller fighter, less in terms of, overall reach.
And that felt like a setup fight for Pudilova at the time. Like, Kish was kind of on her way out. This was a prospect, someone on the rise.
Kish hadn't fought in a long time.
Exactly. It was a great opportunity for her, really, and she just wasn't able to capitalize.
So, an odd fight this one is, and I mean, if you look at it for Pudilova, you talk about high hopes. When they went to her home country of Czechia, she was in the co-main event against Liz Carmouche and didn't get the win against Carmouche. Bellator champion, Liz Carmouche. Wow. So the odds in this one, Matt, Pudilova open -210, -160 right now. I know it sounds like we're being harsh. We can definitely add to her game and pick apart Wu Yanan's, who we haven't really talked much of. Wu Yanan opened a +180, +130 right now. So the odds are settling in, getting closer to par. We have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. One fighter is 1-4 in their last 5. One fighter is 4-1 in their last 5. Tapology votes probably aren't that close. I'm going to say over-under 67.5% Pudilova.
I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. It's way over. 728 total votes. 80% Pudilova. 93% by decision for the 20% that have Wu Yanan. 85% by decision. Wu Yanan of Jackson Wink MMA fame as it stands right now, training with Meng Bo, former One Championship great, Holly Holm, Arlene Blenko. Matt, I talk about Arlene every week.
You do.
She's scrappy. So you do look at this one, 2 bigger gyms going at it. Wu Yanan's been active. This is the first time that she's fought in the UFC twice in 1 year. For Pudilova, looking to keep that role that she's had over with Octagon. The last fight I watched of Pudilova, she did look very good, but I translated the European odds. It was 1.12 to 5.31. That means that she was a -833 favorite, and her opponent was +431, and she looked like a -833 favorite should look. Yeah. She just played around on the outside and looked really good with her striking. So good opportunity for Pudilova. For Wu Yanan, she can kind of get overwhelmed in her fights, even though she does move in and out quite a bit, has good movement. But one power shot and Wu Yanan can kind of, there's like a switch that doesn't go off. So it is a tricky fight if you're trying to make a pick on this one.
Yeah, I have no idea who's going to win this fight. And even if the winner wins in spectacular fashion, I'm still not going to have any idea what to think of these fighters moving forward. And I'm perfectly fine admitting that, because a win in this matchup doesn't really get either fighter anything other than another fight in the organization. I'm going to ever so slightly side with Pudilova because they would have brought her back for some reason. They must see her as still having some of the potential that she once did, because she was an exciting fighter before she left the UFC. I didn't think she was a great fighter at that time, and her experience away from the UFC still has been somewhat questionable. Like, the fact that the only person that you fought who has any name recognition whatsoever in Talita Bernardo, who's not a world beater by any means, was able to beat her is a little bit concerning, but I'll ever so slightly favor her volume on the outside in this matchup.
You look at Lucie Pudilova, and she does tend to really kind of meet you fire with fire. Keeps landing that jab to set up her right hand. You look at it for her in the UFC. Justine Kish getting a takedown. She got one against Antonina Shevchenko herself. Carmouche was able to get it going. Sarah Morris was able to get it going, even though Pudilova dropped her twice in that fight. The thing with Lucie Pudilova, it can be a lot of volume, like the fight against Irene Aldana. It can be a lot of volume, like some of these fights that we've seen over with Octagon. It can be a lot of defending takedowns, but she does struggle against the volume. I like Wu Yanan, what I saw against Maeda Bueno Silva. Obviously, she got dropped in the first round, whether they consider it a knockdown or not. Did rally in that one. Takes 2 to tango to get a fight of the night. I like the in and out of Wu Yanan. And what I've seen after that MCL injury that really did scare me going into that matchup. So I'm going to go with Mulan, Wu Yanan as the underdog. A pair of unranked women's bantamweights going at it. We're split on the pick. Matt with Pudilova, me with Yanan. It should be a fun fight that gets us set up for fights like Tyson Pedro and Harry Hunsucker. Hunsucker! Let's get into it, Matt. Big time card. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.